Hello, I'm doing another album ranking, and I'm ranking the studio albums of The Who. I did rank The Who albums, I think, well over a year ago, but looking back, I'm not really proud of that ranking. Yeah, my opinion has changed a lot on some of the later albums, since I've done that video. So yeah, I'm ranking the 12 studio albums, and this is just how I feel. So yeah, number 12, the bottom of my list. I don't own this one. It's their self-titled album. It's just called Who, from 2019. This is their most recent album, and this is an album that I really wanted to like this album, but I really did struggle to get into this one. I've listened to it on YouTube. Didn't really think much. I didn't really think much of it when I first listened to it. But I've gone back and listened to it a few times to try and get into it, to see if it will grow on me, but it hasn't really. I've tried with this album, but it doesn't really do anything for me. Yeah, I mean, Roger Daltrey's vocals are good on this album, but yeah, I just don't think they're not really rocking hard enough on here. And yeah, I just found it very lackluster, to be honest. So yeah, that's one reason why I don't own it. And yeah, so I definitely won't be owning it anytime soon, or indeed at all. If it doesn't grow on me, then I probably won't own it. So yeah. So number 11 is Endless Wire from 2006. My opinion on this album has changed a lot. I think the first time I heard it, I wasn't too keen, to be honest. But I've actually listened to it a few more times since I last did this ranking, and since my other ranking of The Who, and I really like this album now. There's some really good tracks on here, like Fragments. What's the other one? Boy in the Purple Dress. Some great songs on it. I mean, it's not a very memorable album. I mean, I can remember liking a lot of the songs on the album, but the problem is that they're not memorable. They don't stick out in my head. When you're listening to a song, you're listening to an album, and then you enjoy every song, and then afterwards you still remember those songs. You still like those songs still play in your head. You can you have songs in your head that you can instantly remember how they go. With this album, I mean, I enjoyed this album. I enjoyed a lot of the tracks on here, but a lot of them didn't really stick out in my mind afterwards. It's like, how did they go? I can't remember how they went. But I remember liking a lot of the tracks on here. Fragments is probably my favourite. That's probably the only one that I can actually remember how it went. And yeah, another issue I have with this album, it's a little bit too long. They could have done with cutting it down. Getting rid of some of the filler tracks and condensing it down to a shorter album. They could have done with doing, I think it's got like 20 songs on it. It's quite long. They could have done with paring it down to just 10 or 12 songs, and it would have been a lot better. Yeah, because the first half of the album I think is really strong. The second half is a bit weaker, and it kind of lost my interest. But it's a good album. I do like it. I do like it quite a bit. And number 10 is It's Hard from 1982. Again, this is another album that's kind of grown on me. I actually do enjoy this one a lot more now. But again, it's the same with Endless Wire. I enjoyed most of the tracks on it actually, but most of the tracks they don't really stick out in my mind. I actually forget about them afterwards. Like, they just wash over me. Yeah, so I probably need to, some of these later albums, I probably need to listen to them. I probably do need to listen to them more in order to have the songs, you know, sticking out in my mind. But yeah, there's some standouts on here. Like Athena is probably my favourite. The title track's really good, and yeah, Eminent Front is another great track. So the rest of it is good. It's really good. I like it a lot, but I need to listen to it more in order for it to stick out in my mind. But yeah, and then number 9 is Face Dances from 1981. Another good album, I think. Another one that I think is underrated. It's the first album without Keith Moon, but it's the first with Kenny Jones on the drums, and yeah, I think Kenny Jones is a good drummer. Obviously, he's no Keith Moon, but I think he's good. And yeah, there's some great songs on here. You Better, You Bet is great. And yeah, I think the whole album's really good, to be honest. It's just, again, it's the same with. It's another one of those albums where, although I really liked all the tracks on it, I do feel that a lot of them weren't that memorable. They just don't stick out in my mind. You know, you think of songs you like, and you can remember how they go. You know, you can remember the melody or the rhythm of it. But a lot of the songs on this album just, yeah, I don't remember how a lot of them go. So yeah, I do need to listen to it more, but I like the album though. And number 8 is Who Are You from 1978. This is the final album with Keith Moon before he passed away. And yeah, the standout track on here is the title track. Who doesn't know that, right? It's a great song. And you've also got there's a track on here called New Song, which I really like. Sister Disco is really good. The rest of it is good, but just not memorable to me. I do need to listen to it more in order for it to really stick out in my mind. But yeah, but it's a good album. And yeah, as you can see, I don't own a lot of these later albums, but I do plan on getting them. So what are we now? Number 7. So number 7 is The Who by Numbers from 1975. And yeah, I feel this is an underrated album. You know, it's got some standouts. Squeezebox, Slip Kid, Imagine a Man is another one that I really like. It's a nice acoustic track. But again, it's another one. I know I'm saying this a lot, but it does have a lot of tracks on it that, although I liked the most of the tracks on here, it's not like a lot of them don't stick out. Only certain songs on this album stick out in my mind. You know, I can remember how they go, and then the others, I can't quite remember how they go. You know, I can't. You know, they don't stick out in my mind. But so yeah, what I plan to do is listen to the later ones more, because these ones, all the ones I've mentioned so far, I don't own any of these, but I've listened to them on YouTube. But yeah, I do plan on completing my Who collection, probably with the exception of the last one. You know, the last one I wasn't too keen on at all. You know, no matter how many times I went back and listened to it, to try and see if it would grow on me, it just didn't. But yeah, I plan on getting all of their albums, with the exception of the very last one. Yeah. Number 6, now we're actually getting into the stuff that is actually more memorable, and the stuff that I do own. Number 6 is the debut album, My Generation, from 1965. This is a great debut album. There's a lot of cover songs on here. There's a lot of James Brown covers, but it's a really strong album. You know, they're very energetic on here. You've got the title track, My Generation, is a standout. The Kids Were Alright, A Legal Matter, The Ox, which I think is a great drum solo by Keith Moon. Circles is a great track. Out in the Streets, Much Too Much. Please Please Please, which is a James Brown cover, it's fantastic. I'm a Man, you know, it's a great album. There's a lot of songs, there's a lot of great songs on here. So yeah, fantastic debut album. And now we're into the top 5. Number 5 is Quadrophenia from 1973. And it's a double album, of course, and it's a concept album, as we all know, and yeah, great concept album. Yeah, you got favourite track on here is probably Dr. Jimmy, you know, great song. The Real Me, The Punk and the Godfather, Bellboy. You know, just I've Had Enough. I mean, just a great album, and a really good concept as well. And I have also seen the film that's based on this album, and yeah, the film's great as well. So yeah, I know people will probably have this higher, and yeah, I do love this album, but the other 4 I just happen to like more than this. But I do love this album, I do appreciate it, and I acknowledge its importance in rock history. Number 4, might be surprised to see this one ranked quite high, but number 4 for me is A Quick One from 1966. This is their second album, and I think this is a great album. I think it's underrated. It's got Run Run Run, which is one of my favourite songs by The Who, Boris the Spider, Whiskey Man, Heatwave, Cobwebs and Strange, and A Quick One While He's Away is probably the standout on here. You know, probably their first rock opera. Yeah, great album. And now the top 3. Number 3, most people probably have as their number 1. I can assure you I love the album. Who's Next, 1971. Amazing album, you know, you got Barbara O'Reilly on here, Bargain, Love Ain't For Keeping, My Wife, The Song Is Over, Getting In Tune, Going Mobile, Behind Blue Eyes, Won't Get Fooled Again. Like, every track on here, there isn't really a standout on here, because every track on here I think is great, you know. To me, this album, it's like a greatest hits, you know. Every track is amazing. Every track is so amazing, it's hard to pick a favourite. Although I would say Behind Blue Eyes is probably my favourite, and My Wife I really love as well. So yeah, it's a great album. It's a perfect album, really. Number 2 is Tommy from 1969. Concept album, of course, and this is a rock opera, and yeah, I do like this one a bit better than Quadrophenia. But yeah, there's so many great... well, it's one of those albums where you can't really choose an individual song, because all of these songs, they belong together. You know, thing with... especially... well, the thing with albums, I think albums are... I don't really go around like picking individual tracks. I think albums should be taken as a whole, rather than just going for individual tracks, but... this album especially, this album is an example of that. I mean, standout, you obviously got Pinball Wizard, which was released as a single, of course, and we all know that song, we all love it. I'm Free was also a big hit off of here. The Acid Queen. See Me, Feel Me, but the whole album is great. You know, it's one of those albums, you have to listen to it all the way through. You can't, like, I wouldn't, you know, it's just great. I will admit though, when I first heard this album, I wasn't too keen on this album. I liked some of the tracks on it, but since I bought the album, I've really grown to appreciate it, and yeah, it's my second favourite. The only track on here I don't like is Fiddle About. And if you know this album and you know that track, then you'll probably know why I don't like that track. but the rest of the album's perfect. Which leaves me with my number one. It is The Who Sellout from 1967. Yep, this is my favourite album by The Who. And I think it has been for a while. I think, to begin with, I think Who's Next was my favourite. And then it was, then it was Tommy. But yeah, and it's Who Sellout. So yeah, this was their first concept album. And yeah, iconic cover, you know, Roger Daltrey sitting in a bath full of cold baked beans, which he actually got pneumonia later that day. And then Pete Townsend with his roll-on deodorant. But yeah, it's just a great album. And you know, I think this album has become a classic. You know, I think at the time this album was underrated, but I think now it's become a classic. I mean, it's one of these albums it should be listened to from start to finish. But so many great tracks. Armenia City in the Sky is a great psychedelic track. Our Love Was is one of my favourites on here. Tattoo, I Can See for Miles, I Can't Reach You, Medak, Relax, Sunrise, Marianne with the Shaky Hand. I mean, it's just not a bad song on here, really. It's a bit comedic as well, you know, there's a bit of humour on here, you know, because it's basically the concept of this album is like fake, is the basic radio commercial. There's like radio jingles between each track. So yeah, so there's like Heinz Baked Beans, deodorant, and acne cream. But yeah, I love this album. It's great, it's psychedelic, it's humorous at times. It's amazing. And especially it sounds good in mono, because I have the deluxe edition here, which it comes with it has the album in stereo and the album in mono. It sounds brilliant in mono. You know, if you can buy a copy of this album, you know, the deluxe version, listen to the mono mix. The stereo mix is not bad, but the mono mix, in my opinion, is the best way to experience this album. So yeah, that's my ranking of the Who catalogue. Hope you enjoyed that, and you know, if you would like to, then please give me your ranking of the albums. So I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you again later.